When I first saw the listing, it looked like everything I had dreamed of. Live-in housekeeper needed, private residence, room and board included. I didn't care that it was in the middle of nowhere. I just needed a safe place, somewhere to breathe, somewhere to restart. I had just arrived from Honduras 2 weeks earlier, sleeping on the floor of a friend's apartment in Houston, hiding from the fear of being deported or worse. So when a woman named Carol replied to my online application, I jumped at the chance. She sounded kind, warm. "You'll love it here," she wrote. "Very quiet, no one to bother you." She wasn't lying. It was quiet, too quiet. The house was an hour from the nearest town, past 2 broken gas stations and a stretch of road so empty I thought we'd made a wrong turn. Carol picked me up herself. She was in her 50s, hair pulled back tightly, eyes that didn't blink much. Her car smelled like bleach. She didn't say much on the drive, just that she'd lived alone since her husband died, that she liked things orderly, that privacy was important to her. I nodded along, trying to ignore the chill crawling up my spine. When we pulled into the property, I noticed there were no mailboxes, no streetlights, no fences, just miles of trees behind us and silence all around. The house was big, 2 stories, white paint flaking off, curtains drawn in every window. It felt like something from an old photograph, familiar but wrong. "Come in," she said. "I'll show you your room." She didn't ask for ID, didn't check my papers, just handed me a key and pointed upstairs. My room was small but clean. A narrow bed, a dresser, no lock on the inside. The first night, I slept with one eye open. By the 3rd night, I knew something was wrong. Carol had rules. No phone calls, no guests, no leaving the house without her. She said it was for my own safety, that the area wasn't friendly to outsiders. I wanted to believe her, but then she took my phone to protect my privacy, said I'd get it back after I'd earned trust. I asked to call my cousin. She said, "You'll write her a letter instead." I didn't argue. I just nodded. I had nowhere else to go. I started cleaning every day, mopping floors that were already clean, washing dishes that were already washed. She always watched me, never spoke while I worked, just stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes blank. One morning, I noticed the front door had 4 locks, from the outside. That night, I checked my window. It was nailed shut, not screwed, nailed. I didn't sleep at all. Then I started hearing things. At night, footsteps above my ceiling. Carol said it was just the wind, but it was heavy, slow, like someone pacing. Then the banging started, from the basement, always just after midnight. I asked her what it was. She smiled and said, "Old pipes." I stopped asking questions. I tried to leave once, told her I missed my cousin, that I wanted to go back. She looked at me for a long time, then said, "You're free to leave any time." But when I went to the door, all the locks were engaged. My key didn't fit. I turned around. She was standing behind me, holding a mug of tea. "Maybe after dinner," she said. "It's not safe at night." I didn't try again. Days blurred. I lost track of time. She kept the clock set to different hours. The windows stayed covered. I wasn't allowed outside. "Too many ticks," she said. I started writing notes on scraps of toilet paper, counting the days, watching the shadows on the wall to guess the hour. Then one day, I found something behind the dresser in my room. A shoe. Not mine. A child's. Tiny. Dusty. Pink. I stared at it for a long time. Then I put it back. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, Carol told me she was going into town. "You'll stay here," she said. "You're not ready for the outside yet." I nodded. Watched her drive off. Waited 10 minutes. Then I ran, straight for the basement. I had never been down there. The door was always locked. But today, it wasn't. I opened it slowly. Darkness breathed up the stairs. I turned on the light, and I screamed. The walls were lined with shelves, but not books, not food, cages, Dozens of metal cages, stacked like crates. Some were empty. Others weren't. I saw bones. Tiny shoes, dried red stains, a stuffed animal with one eye missing, and in the far corner, a small mattress with chains bolted to the floor. The air smelled of rot and bleach. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I turned and ran up the stairs, heart pounding so hard I thought it might stop. I locked the door behind me and sat on the kitchen floor shaking. I wanted to scream, but who would hear me? There were no neighbors, no passing cars, just trees and silence. When Carol returned, I pretended nothing happened. I smiled, said I had cleaned the windows. She didn't smile back, just looked at me. For too long. "You went into the basement," she said flatly. I froze. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. She stepped forward. "You weren't supposed to go down there." My hands began to sweat. I backed toward the hallway. She followed, calm. I said, "I just wanted to see if we had more cleaning supplies." She stopped, tilted her head. "Do you think I'm stupid?" I shook my head, whispered, "No." She raised one eyebrow, then "Stop lying." That night, the door to my room was locked from the outside. I woke up in darkness. My lamp was gone. The window was nailed tighter. I heard her pacing in the hallway. Then silence. Then the sound of something being dragged. Metal scraping wood. My heart thudded in my throat. In the morning, my breakfast tray had no fork, just dry toast. She said I didn't deserve anything more. "Liars eat like animals," she said. I didn't speak. I couldn't. 2 days passed. No phone, no sunlight, no clue how to escape. Then I heard it again, the banging. But this time, closer, louder, from the walls, not the basement. And then a voice. Faint. Hoarse. "Help." I ran to the wall, pressed my ear to it. The voice again. "Please, help me," I whispered back. "Who are you?" A pause. Then, "Maria." Another girl. Still here, still alive. I asked where she was. She said, "The pantry." Behind the panel. I knew where that was. Downstairs, just off the kitchen. I told her I'd come. She said, "Hurry, before she hears us." That night, I waited until Carol fell asleep. Her bedroom door creaked when it closed. I had memorized the sound. I tiptoed downstairs, opened the pantry, moved the cans aside, found the panel, pulled, a crawl space, and inside, Maria. She was thin, pale, eyes wide with terror, shackled at the ankle. She cried when she saw me. Said she'd been there for 3 weeks, promised a job, trapped like me. I told her we'd leave together. I found the key in Carol's room, risked everything. Every step felt like walking on glass. I unlocked Maria. We held hands in the dark, whispered a plan. We had one shot. The next morning, we waited until Carol left again. She always went out every Thursday. Exactly 10:30 a.m. Never missed it. We waited by the back door. Bags ready, but then, her car never left the driveway. She had lied. We heard her voice upstairs, talking to someone, on the phone. "Yes, I've got 2 now. New one's young, quiet, doesn't ask questions. I'll prep them both tonight." Maria grabbed my hand. We bolted, through the pantry, down the hall, toward the back door. It was open. We ran. Branches scratched our arms. Dirt filled our shoes. We didn't stop. Not even when we heard her yelling behind us. Not even when the gunshot cracked the air. We ran until the trees opened into a field. A barn. A light. And someone screaming, "Stop!" We didn't stop running. Not when the man at the barn stepped out with a shotgun. Not when he screamed at us to freeze. Maria collapsed beside me, gasping, "Please, help!" He lowered the gun, confused, worried. I said one word, "Trapped," and pointed toward the trees. He stepped aside, brought us inside, locked the door, called someone. "Sheriff," he said, "something's wrong. You better get here." We sat on his kitchen floor, shivering, wrapped in a blanket. I watched the driveway, afraid she'd appear. that Carol would find us again. But when the sheriff arrived, she didn't follow. They asked questions. Too many, fast, demanding. "Who are you? Where did you come from?" I tried to speak, but the words got stuck. Maria sobbed, showed them her bruises. I showed them the map I had drawn, where the house was, where the basement door creaked, where the cages were. They didn't believe us at first, not until they got to the house. Carol was gone. But the house was there, the cages were there, the shackles, the notes I had left on toilet paper, the voice recorder under the floorboard I had hidden. They found it all, every horror, every whisper. Maria and I were taken to a shelter, a safe house for women like us. They gave us food, a bed, a counselor, someone to talk to. But I didn't sleep, not for days. I'd close my eyes and see the basement, smell the bleach, hear her voice. Weeks passed. They found others. Girls who had worked for Carol, some had escaped, some hadn't. Their stories were like mine, almost word for word, different names, same hell. I was granted a visa, a special one, for victims of crimes. It didn't erase the trauma, but it gave me a chance, a way to stay without hiding. Maria stayed too. We shared an apartment for a while, took turns making dinner, watching the door. We learned English, found a lawyer, started small jobs under the table, cleaned real homes. Homes with windows that opened, doors that didn't lock from the outside. Sometimes we still have nightmares, but we wake up in our own beds. One day, Maria asked me, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't opened the pantry?" I said, "No, because I know exactly what would have happened. I'd still be there, or worse." We started a blog, just stories at first, then photos, then letters from others, dozens, hundreds. Women who had been promised jobs, visas, freedom, and ended up in houses like Carol's, invisible prisons, silent crimes. Some of them were never found. We tell our story so that doesn't happen again. We tell it for the girls who never made it out. We tell it for the ones still trapped. Because sometimes the scariest place on earth isn't a dungeon or a basement. Sometimes it's a house in the middle of nowhere, with no neighbors and no way out.